Welcome back to the Funny Thing Is podcast. I am your host, Nicole Birch, where every week I bring you someone who shares a life-changing event, the medicine they took to get better, and the funniest lesson they learned along the way. Today is no exception. I have a wonderful comedian, actor, and podcaster. He's on 3 podcasts, Not Today, The Ramble, and The Ralph Report. Please welcome to the stage, Eddie Pence.
Hey.
How you doing?
How's it going? Hi, Nicole.
Good. How are you?
I'm good.
I feel like we just met last week.
We did. We just meet last week.
I just
you
met
did
you.
my podcast.
I did Not Today with Jen Sturgill,
right.
who I adore.
Yes, he's great.
That was fun.
Yes, it's a good time.
We got to share some parental / kids stories.
We have some similar stories, I think, with
yes.
having children.
You have a teenage boy.
15. 16 next month.
Oh, wow.
Goes by so fast.
Does it?
So fast.
Yeah.
So fast.
I want to keep her at home. We just had an all-school assembly this morning.
Oh,
and TK, because she's in TK, they sang, I guess because it's Women's Day, they changed it to She Has the Whole World in Her Hands. With all the movements and stuff. Look, before I had my kid, you couldn't get me to cry.
Right.
I wouldn't cry.
Dude.
I was dead
inside.
I was dead.
Inside.
There was something like, even in moments, funerals, and I'd be like, I've got nothing. I'm tapped out.
I'm like, now you had a good run.
I started crying when she walked in and just waved her little hands, and she was
Dude,
so excited.
Then you get that love, like, he's coming.
I was so excited to just see her. And I just started weeping. Yeah. I'm like, what is, and her dad's there. And he's like, are you crying? He's like, they haven't even sat down yet.
In here. I
was like, I think I might need medication. I think
that's the problem. Kids unlock that thing in you where the most hardened person, it's just like when they're born, just something that
snaps.
The seal breaks or something.
Yeah.
The callus pulls off.
I know. Okay. So, as you know, we do share a life-changing event. What is something you would like to talk about today?
Well, I have several.
Yes.
But I don't know if they qualify as life-changing events.
I would think the wife.
The wife
stuff.
Saying, yeah, I guess it does.
Yeah. But I also want to hear about the other 2 that we talked about. So.
Well, I guess I'll start with I've been married for, my wife and I, we celebrated 20 years last October.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay.
We've been together prior to that since 99.
Okay.
I think 99.
Will you tell the story? Because you told me this last week at the podcast, but you were friends.
We knew each other in high school.
Uh-huh.
We were friends in high school, same friend circle, right? Went to college together. Again, same friend circle. Weren't interested in each other at all.
Right.
Like, she was just my friend. I mean, I found her, she was an attractive girl, but I was never like, I'm playing the long game here. It was never that. And then I moved out here in 1997 to go to film school at Chapman University and start whatever this career is. And start podcasting 5 times a week. So I started doing that. And then she, a year later, got a job out here because she kind of wanted to get out of Virginia too. She just wanted to get...
Wait, where in Virginia?
Northern Virginia? Like Chantilly? Fairfax?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I would have gone to Centerville High School.
You went to... Oh my God. Yeah. That was our rival.
I know. I went to Rocky... What was it?
Rocky Run.
Yeah.
When did you go to Rocky Run?
Oh my God. Okay, so...
I went to Rocky Run. That was my middle school.
Dude, shut up.
That was my middle school.
That was my middle school.
Right off Stringfellow Road.
Yeah. Yeah. That was my middle school. How did we not do this last week?
I went to Brookfield Elementary.
I went to Centerville Elementary.
Okay.
Which is now like I don't know.
Because it was, what fed into Rocky Run back then was Brookfield, Greenbrier East and West.
Yep.
And then I guess, and Centerville, I don't think was around when I was that age.
Yeah.
Because when I went to high school, Centerville was still a fairly new high school.
Right.
But I went to Rocky Run, 7th, 8th grade.
I would have been 94, 95.
I was there 86, 87, 87, 88.
We went
around
to
there.
The same middle school.
The circle. It was our big oval.
Yes.
Yeah.
What are the chances? Dude,
That's
I'm
crazy.
losing my mind
crazy.
now. Is it even around? No.
I go back home probably, I try to get back once or twice every couple of years, something like that. They built like a different level to it. Like, it's completely, I think they gutted it and refurbished the whole thing. It's not like, because the old school was just this dark brown brick building that was just a long oval.
Right.
And if you went in and went to the right, you could go all the way around the school.
Right.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And then the lockers were in the center.
I'm obsessed. That's so funny. I have so many great memories from that school. We ended up moving back because I'm from Kansas City. So my mom got a job in Georgetown.
Okay.
And so from ages 4 to 14.
You were in Centerville?
Yeah, and then so I started.
Where in Centerville did you live?
We lived in Clifton. So
Clifton.
Off of whatever the street Centerville High School's on.
Yeah, yeah.
We lived off that.
Yeah, we go to Clifton all the time. Clifton days.
Yeah. Isn't that so funny?
So
So like people are like, oh, do you know that? And they'll like name streets. And I was like, I didn't drive there. So
No.
I'm not familiar
I
with
still don't know how to drive there.
Yeah.
It's a nightmare to drive there.
the Giant grocery store.
With the Giant
Oh my God.
all the time. My Tracy, my wife, she went to what was the middle school down by Sully Station? I forgot what that middle school was. I forget. I can't remember. I can't think of the name.
That's so crazy.
But she went down there.
So she came out here to be with you.
She came out here to be with me. Well, not to be with me, just she got a job and she's like, hey, I need a place to stay. And I'm like, well, that'll cut my rent in half. I'll do that.
Great.
And so I was like, yeah, we'll roommate.
What was she
roommates.
working in?
She got a job at Morgan Freeman's production company. At the time, she was trying to be in the business.
Oh, great.
Right?
Okay.
And so she moved out here, and we moved. I was in Orange County at the time, and she moved. So we moved up to Santa Monica.
Great.
Because I could commute to school, and she was working in Santa Monica. I was like, all right, this works. It's fine. I cut my rent in half. Great.
Yeah.
And then I flew back east, and we drove across country. I drove her out with her car. I helped pack up her car, and we drove out together. And I guess along the way, we started kind of something could be here. And then we lived together for 4 or 5 months. And next thing you know, we're like, we're in it.
A long haul.
And at that point, we're done. We're in it. So,
okay.
And then, so this was like, spring of 99. We were probably like 6 months into our relationship. I guess we started, officially dated like September, October of 98. So this is like spring of 99. And she gets this, her eyesight goes like into like a pinhole and then comes out. Like her eyesight goes like this, right? And she can't see. It's just like a pinhole.
Oh no.
And so she's like, this is weird. It comes and goes like this. So she goes to the doctor, and it's optic neuritis, which is kind of like just a narrowing of your vision field. And so they run all these tests because that can be a symptom for any number of things. And so they do a spinal tap. And they find out that she's got her white blood cell counts through the roof. So that's a signal that you possibly have multiple sclerosis.
Oh my God.
And at the time, like, I don't know, I've heard of MS, but I had no idea what it was. Right. So I get on the computer and I just start researching MS because she's in the hospital. I got to call her parents because I've known her parents since I was in high school. Right. So like, I know her parents. It's not like I didn't know who her, and so I start calling and when, I'm explaining to them what's going on.
Right.
And so they fly out and we're talking all this stuff. And like, they finally give her the full, you do have multiple sclerosis. These are the steps we're going to take to, it's not a curable disease, but it's a disease that you can manage. You can treat. And these are the steps we're going to take. And this is the best possible outcome. And this is the worst possible outcome. The doctor gives you all that stuff. And like, I'm just sitting there next to her bed at the hospital. And she looks over at me. She's like, we've been friends for a long time. And we just started.
And how old is she? She's got like 20.
She's at the time 23, 24.
Baby. Okay.
Which is usually MS isn't caught until you're 40.
Right.
Because you don't start noticing, because it doesn't really materialize in optic neuritis. Usually it comes in like my foot fell asleep.
Right.
And you get that sort of feeling, stuff like that stuff you attribute to something else. Like, it's a pinched nerve. It's not that. Mm-hmm. So people usually misdiagnose it for a long time until they get into their 40s and something really bad happens. Mm-hmm. So they caught it really early in her, which was fortunate because you could treat it for a long time. But she looked at me, she was laying there, she's like, she just got this diagnosis, which is life altering. Mm-hmm. And she looks at me and she's like, we've been friends forever. We love each other, but I understand if you don't want to keep going down this path with me because it's going to be tough.
Right.
And this, if you want out, I understand, no hard feelings. Right. And I looked at her, I was like, I didn't even hesitate. I was like, no, like everybody has something. Everyone has something.
Yeah.
To different varying degrees, everybody has something. And I was like, no, I wouldn't do that. No, that's why would you do something like that? And so we've just been managing it together, I think
MS is like is become much more publicly acknowledged, like with Christina Applegate. And,
because for the longest time, if you had multiple sclerosis, as if you were in the business, you couldn't let anybody know. Right. Because there would be days where you literally couldn't get out of bed. Right. And you wouldn't book anything because they couldn't insure you because you may not be able to show up to set one day. Right. So if casting people, directors, producers knew you had MS, they wouldn't hire you. Right. So that's why all these actors you've seen come out lately with MS, they've had it and they've probably known about it for a long time.
Yeah.
But they couldn't tell anybody to the point where it got to the point where like, I can't hide it anymore.
It also feels like I did a little bit of research on it. I have Hashimoto's, and Hashimoto's makes you.
Everybody's got something.
We got something thanks to my child.
I'm clinically depressed.
Story. Yeah. Yeah. It's like, dee. But it makes you more susceptible to other autoimmune because it's autoimmune, right?
Yes.
And so my question is, it feels like there's such varying degrees of, I know people that, was it Jamie Sigler? That's the one from The Sopranos.
Yes.
And she seems.
There's a couple, there's primary progressive, which is the worst one, which is like what Richard Pryor had, which was like Annette Funicello had, like Squiggy from Laverne and Shirley. Yeah. He had, like, that's primary progressive. That's the one that just knocks you down. Yeah. The people you see with MS that are usually have like a severe limp or in a wheelchair or something like that, those are usually people with primary progressive MS. It accelerates pretty fast. Tracy has relapsing remitting, which if you have to be dealt the hand of MS, that's the hand you want to get. It's not as severe. It's much more, it progresses much more slowly. Okay. And then if you add in the different treatments they have now, it goes very slowly.
What are some of, like, I'm curious what they started her on early.
Her first one was a daily shot, which sucked for her because she was terribly afraid of needles.
Oh no.
And so she had to do a self-injection every night. And that was a nightmare, like trying to be the caregiver watching her go through this every night, where she would literally every night work herself into tears, having to have to pin, and you had to do it in different spots every night. You couldn't keep doing the same spot. Yeah. So like hip, back of arm, stomach. Like those were like the 6 spots you could do, and you had to rotate them. And then the more you did it, the more you got these little hard knots where you did it. It was and then sometimes the needle wouldn't go in. And you would have like this auto injector you'd put on, and it would hit the hard spot and it wouldn't go in, and the medicine would shoot out. And it's just like, you're going through all of this every night. And it was terrible. It was horrible. And so they eventually got her on a different medicine, which was like 3 days a week, which was a little bit better. Right. And then when we got pregnant with our son, or she got pregnant with our son, she went off everything, because you go off everything when you're pregnant, because you have no symptoms when you're pregnant. That's the great thing about MS. For some reason, whatever hormone or chemical a female produces while she's pregnant eliminates MS.
It was so interesting. I remember before I got pregnant, there was a friend of mine, and he said his wife, she has terrible vision. Like he goes, she's not legally blind, but she's on the cusp. Right. And he goes, when she was pregnant, she had perfect eyesight. And then 4 months after giving birth, it goes away. And so, and I've talked to my friends that have Hashimoto's, and and mine's very, like, it's in remission, it's mild or whatever. I don't even know if you call it in remission, but the numbers are normal.
That's good.
And I've had people that have had really the bad version of it. And when they're pregnant, it goes away, because your body literally, like,
that second trimester of pregnancy, your body puts something out that and they're doing trials and stuff
to figure out what that
is, to see if they can replicate that or
bottle it.
Bottle it and give it to people.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And then, like, of course, once you give birth, you crash. Right. Yeah. And she like basically went blind after she gave birth. Oh no. Which sucked because I was on the road.
Oh no.
She'd given birth in May, and I was like, I'd already booked these dates, and I was like, so our son was like 2 months old. This was like July. And I'm like, I got to go on the road for like 2 weeks, because I hadn't made any money in that for a while. And she wasn't working because she's a real estate agent. So it's like both of our jobs are dependent on us leaving the house and going and finding work. Yeah. And so she's like, no, go. It's okay. It's fine. And when I was gone, like the second day in, she's like, I woke up and I can see out of a pinhole. Like I can see out of a pinhole. Like, I'm like, oh my God. So I'm like, at this point I was in Oregon doing one-nighters in Oregon, triple runs at the old stand-up route comics used to do. Right. And I'm like in Oregon, I'm like, okay, well, I have 2 more shows and then I'll head back. I had another week that I just canceled because I was supposed to be there for 2 weeks. So I just did the week and I came back. But it was just like, it was crazy. It was nuts.
Yeah.
But everybody's got something.
Yeah.
So.
How's she doing now? Similar treatments, or?
She's on a new treatment now, which is every 6 months. It's called, oh my God, I can't think of the name.
Oh, that's good though, that it's not like.
No, it's once every 6 months, and you sit there for like 5 hours in the hospital and they infuse you. It's called chemo light, basically. It just goes in and knocks out your immune system. Mm-hmm. And then you kind of have 6 months until your body's ready again to have it knocked out again. So
that's crazy.
And it just keeps you going, but. you know.
Does she have any like bad symptoms?
Her worst symptoms are fatigue, which is a big one. And last few years have been numbness in the hands.
Interesting.
But for someone who's had it, been diagnosed as long as she has, and at her age, she's doing great.
Yeah. It's neurological, right? Isn't it like a...
Yeah. It's to get technical with it, the immune system gets overactive and attacks the body.
Right.
And it starts attacking the myelin sheath on the brain cells in the brain.
Yeah.
So the brain cells usually fire down the synapses fires down the brain cell really quickly. And you take that myelin sheath off, it slows down the synapse.
Okay.
So it's still happening, but it's happening much like your brain is telling your arm to move, but it's taking a second for the arm to move.
To catch up.
Because everything's slowed down because
I think the
signal gets slowed down.
All autoimmune, it's the immune system attacking something. So mine's my thyroid.
Right, okay.
I think lupus is, I'm trying to remember.
They're all connected.
They're all connected.
And if they cure one, they're going to cure all of them, which will be great.
Which would be lovely.
Like Parkinson's, I think, is one of them.
Yeah.
Lupus.
Rheumatoid arthritis.
Rheumatoid, like all that is autoimmune.
Yeah.
If they cure one, all of them are going.
Yeah, I think not to brag, I think I have the best.
I think you did. I think you won.
It's pretty.
You got
it's
the
just
best hand.
I'm tired and fat for a while. Like, okay.
But aren't we all tired and fat for a little while?
And fat, you know? I just like, this is just motherhood, right?
Right. So it's just been living and taking care, and I pick her up when she needs to be picked up, and she picks me up when I need to be picked up.
Yeah,
so
I love that.
That's how it works.
And then when we were talking about what you were going to talk about today, you'd also mentioned, was it driving out here? And 6 months in, you had yeah,
because I'm from we grew up in the same area apparently, and there's nothing around there.
Yeah,
and I didn't want to grow up there. I mean, I love my family, I love where I grew up, but it's like I always wanted to do something different.
Right,
and I always wanted to do stand-up comedy. Ever since I was a little kid. That's all I've ever wanted to do.
I love that.
Is be a stand-up comedian.
Okay.
I saw the Robin Williams special, An Evening at the Met in 1985 on HBO.
Done.
And I was like, that's what I want.
Yeah.
That's a job. You can do that.
Right.
People can do that.
Mine was Eddie Murphy Raw.
Yeah.
And I was
that one came out very close to
But I was literally
that.
like, I went back and watched it. I'm like, when I first watched this, there's no way I even knew what half the stuff he was talking about was.
No. If you watch Robin Williams, even at the Met, he's mentioned so many things. Like I probably got 5 of the references in the entire hour.
Yeah, but you knew what
But he was talking, people were laughing. I'm like, that's a great job.
That's it.
And so when I got the opportunity, I graduated from college, and I'm like, I'm going to move to LA.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to do. If I had chosen different, if I'd been smarter about it, I would have gone, let me find a stand-up comedy town and go grow a little bit. Let me go to Seattle or Chicago or even New York or Boston, something like that, where I could go get my legs under me and then start doing it. Right. So before I go to LA,
right,
I at least have my feet under me.
Right.
But I don't know that. I'm just graduating. I'm like, I guess you go to LA if you want to be famous.
Right. Yeah.
Packed up my car and I drove to LA. Started doing stand-up. Like the first 6 months I was out here, I didn't know how to start stand-up comedy.
Right.
So I took one of those classes. I took a class, Greg Dean's stand-up comedy class.
Great.
He still teaches today, and he's a great teacher. He taught me everything about joke structure, like how to write a joke, what a setup is, what a punch is, what the misdirection's for. Like he broke it down to me. I'd never seen it broken down like that before. And I was like, oh, that's why I laugh.
Yeah.
I understand the science of comedy now.
Yeah. And by the way, anybody who talks shit on like taking classes or teaching classes, like you can't teach people to be funny. I'm like, the ones that I've taught in, they're already really funny. Yeah. They just need a little bit of honing.
They just need like some guidance and like a little push. And that's what he does. Like what Greg Dean did for me. It's like, I mean, I thought I was already a funny person because I'd made people laugh before.
Right.
I knew I could do this.
Yeah.
I just didn't know how to do it.
When you see it broken down like that.
And you see it like, oh, this is how it works. I'm like, oh, okay. And then you could start thinking of stories. Okay, this would be the setup to that. And okay, this is the misdirection. And okay, I got it now.
Right.
And so I took his class, and you did the showcase after you did finish the class. You did showcase at the Belly Room in the Comedy Store. And you go up, and your first show is just great because you have all your friends are there. You dominate for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
You have the greatest set of your life for 5 minutes.
Yep.
And you get a tape of it. And I look back at the tape since, and it's not the greatest setup. It's an awful 5 minutes. But your energy is there. Your friends are supporting you, and you feel like you're crushing.
Right.
You feel like you're Eddie Murphy Raw.
Right.
Like that's what you feel like.
That's it. Yeah.
And so you get off, and you got this euphoric feeling. I got to keep doing this. So you keep going up. And so I was going up for a while, and like the first 5-6 months, I was just having what I thought was great sets.
Right.
People were laughing. People were telling me I was funny. I was like, oh, this is great.
I'm crushing it.
When's
yeah.
my sitcom coming? Like, when am I getting this agent? Like, I remember I did a show at the Comedy Store at the Belly Room, and after the show, Eddie Griffin's manager at the time came up. He's like, "You're funny. Here's my card." Right?
And you're like, "Oh my God.
Fuck. I'm 5 minutes in. I got a manager. Eddie Griffin's manager? I know that. That's a famous person."
Yeah.
And so I'm like, "Oh, this is great." So I was like, I went back to my apartment. I was like, "Okay, I got to get a tape and send to him." He's like, "Send me a tape." I'm like, so I send him a tape, and then of course he never calls me back because I'm 5 months in. I don't know what the hell I'm doing.
Right. Yeah.
I thought I was good, but I'm not good at 5 months. And so around the 6 month mark, I do another Belly Room show, and I've been doing these shows for a while. And I've been the lady that used to book them. God, it's a long time ago. Belinda Johnson. It was a long time ago. This was probably 2000, 2001. I think it was like April 2001. Okay, it's April 2001. I do a set at the Belly Room, and it's packed. It's like sold out in the Belly Room. And that room can be so good when it's full.
Yep.
So good when it's full. And I go up and I'm just feeling myself because it's like I've never had a bad set. In the 8 months or whatever I've been doing, I've never had a bad set. And so I go up and I'm just like, all right, I can do that. And I start doing it. And like the first joke doesn't hit. I'm like, okay, that's weird. That one usually gets them. That usually opens it up. And then I just start sliding, right? And the second one's like, it doesn't hit either. I'm like, okay, all right. And so by the fourth joke not hitting, I'm like, they're just staring at me. And I'm like, and I just start having that self-actualization, that self-realization moment of you're like, I know exactly where I am. I can hear myself. I can hear my heartbeat. I can feel these people looking at me. And I'm just like, and you're almost having that out of body experience.
You're watching yourself.
You're watching yourself.
Stage.
And you're just like, nut. Yeah. And I'm like, I still have like 6 more minutes.
I know you're literally counting down the time because you're like, I can't just walk off.
I can't leave because I want them to book me again. But if I keep doing 6 more minutes of what I'm doing now, they're not going to book me anyway. And I was just like, it got to the point where like, it just came out. I wasn't even trying to be funny or, what we do now as comics, if like you acknowledge the moment, right? As a comic, you guys didn't like that one. Like whatever it is, sometimes you acknowledge the moment. Like I wasn't trying to acknowledge the moment. It just like, it's like a reflexive, a visceral reaction, like an automatic reflex of just like, I'm bombing. I'm bombing in the Belly Room. I'm bombing. And they didn't even laugh at that because it wasn't me like calling it out. It was just them going, yeah, you're bombing.
Oh, God.
I'm glad you realize it. And I'm like, okay. And I used to have this awful, awful closer where I'm so excited. I have it on video. It's terrible. I would wear the premise of the thing was I loved stand-up comedy and I loved professional wrestling. Okay. Those are my 2 loves in my life. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I found out a way to combine them. My love of wrestling and stand-up comedy through this character that I've created called the Punchliner. Okay. And so what I would do is I would you turn around when you're going to do a character, you turn your back to the stage and turn back around and you're the character, right? That's how you do it. And underneath my clothes, I had tearaway basketball pants. And a t-shirt. And under that, I had I don't know if you're familiar with wrestling, a Bret the Hitman Hart.
Absolutely
unitard. Yes. Pink pants, black unitard.
Yes.
And I would take the shirt off, pull the pants off, and now I'm in a full wrestling gear, right? Mm-hmm. And I would start telling hacky jokes like, hey, my buddy asked me if he could borrow a ruler, so I gave him a picture of Napoleon. Like just the dumbest, stupid jokes. The stupidest. And then as I was telling the stupid hacky jokes, oh my God, there's Starbucks everywhere. The other day I saw a Starbucks in a Starbucks. It was like the fucking dumbest jokes. And as I'm doing it, I'm like beating myself up. Like I'm wrestling myself as I'm telling hacky street jokes.
I love this.
And that's how it ended. And I would finally just knock myself out and that would be the end of the joke.
Right.
And usually at that time, that was huge. I was crushing with it. At least I thought I was. But obviously not. If I saw a comic doing that day, I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? But at the time, people were laughing at it because it was such a spectacle. And,
yeah, right.
But these people hated me at this point. And so I'm like, all right, I guess I just have to do this.
Commit.
And so I did it. And I'm beating myself up. I'm going, okay, so I gave him a picture of Napoleon. And they're just staring at me, wanting me off the stage. And I do this whole act out. I'm just like, and then literally it's over and my clothes are on the ground. So I'm like, it's almost like the worst stripper. One night stand or stripper. Yeah. And you're just like picking your clothes up. That's been my time. Bye. And I'm like walking off the stage with my clothes. And they're just, no one's even applauding. And then like the host comes up, she's like, hey, and trying to get the energy back up. I'm like, oh my God.
Now here's my question after bombing.
Yeah.
Do you still look back and go, why didn't that work? Because it worked several times before. Because when I bombed, and I bombed back-to-back shows, like we talked about this right after the pandemic. And I was like, but all that material had killed before, had gotten me more gigs.
Right.
What do you... Because I don't think there's an answer to it.
I don't think there... It's so... Again, it's like, I mean... I've always been fascinated by the groupthink and the living organism that is the audience, because it is an organism. It's not a bunch of individual people. Most of the time, it's a groupthink and an organism, right? And you have to attack it as such. Like it's you versus that thing. And it's just weird to sometimes go, okay, what am I giving off that they're taking and then giving back to me? And then what are they giving off that now is affecting how I'm thinking and then giving back to them? It's this whole like, cyclical, this, I forget what this called, what type of relationship it was. It was a mutual beneficial relationship, whatever. Right. But it's, you're giving something out, they're giving something out, and you both are sort of just giving and taking.
Right.
And it's just weird because you're always saying, okay, well, I'm giving this, but they're giving me something different. So now it's affecting how I'm thinking. So now I'm giving out something different than I was before. And it's just these little subtle things, and they can affect the way you deliver something, your confidence in how you deliver it, which totally alters the joke and how it's perceived. If your confidence, you could tell the exact same joke, worded same, timing is the same. And if you have no confidence in it and you're not present in it, it's going to eat it.
This is exactly, if I had to pick something, I'd say it was confidence.
Yeah. It's usually confidence. And then when you're not confident, you're in your head.
Right.
And when you're in your head, you're not present.
Right.
And the audience sees that. And they know that whether they realize it or recognize it or not, I don't think they do. They just feel like this guy's not funny for some reason. This woman's not funny for some reason. I don't like this person. Right. Because people like confidence.
Which is crazy.
People love confidence. People hate unconfident. Like when someone looks unconfident
I mean, if you've seen some comedians that will get a crowd going and they're set verbally, like if it's written down, it's shit. Yeah. It's not funny at all, but they are so confident it does not matter.
You can sell it. Yeah. And comedy is so much the performance, the selling of it. Like I don't think I'm a great writer, but I think I'm a better performer than I am a writer.
Right.
And like, because if you looked at my set written down, or you went up and said my set verbatim,
it wouldn't hit. Yeah.
No, it wouldn't hit. There might be 2 punchlines in 1 minute, like actual real punchlines in 1 minute of comedy.
But it's the way you
deliver it. But it's the way I deliver it, the way I act it out, the confidence I speak with it. People are enjoying the ride, and then they get the laugh. So you get a lot of people looking at you, but they're paying attention. They're not just like, what are you doing?
Right.
Which is, so it's so much confidence. Yeah. It's all about confidence, because the audience, the minute they smell you're not confident, you're done.
Yeah. So what did you do after that night?
I didn't go on stage for like 6 more months.
Yeah.
I was like, at that point I was like,
that's probably after my big bomb. That's probably what
I was afraid to go back up. Yeah. And normally, and what you should do is go right back up.
Immediately.
You should go right back up. But I stayed off like another 6 months. Like I think that was in April. I don't think I went back up on stage until November.
Yeah.
Maybe December. And I was so nervous when I went back up. And it almost felt like it was my first set again. Like I was that detached from having done it and feeling comfortable about it. And I just was like, I took that 6 months and I was like, I don't know if I want to do this. I had been offered a couple shows like, hey, you want to do the spot? And I'm like,
yeah.
I just said no. I lived in the fear of that one moment in time, which is a horrible way to live.
Right. I mean, and like if you talk to like the seasoned comics, when you're that age, when you're that new to it, I've always appreciated people that have been around the block. Like, because when I bombed, Chris Porter was there because he was the headliner, and he was just like, yeah, so just come back next time. Yeah. Like you
got another set in 30 minutes.
But I'm like, are you upset with me? Like my feelings are hurt. I'm sorry. I let you down as your opener, as your 10-minute opener. And he's like, yeah, nobody cares. Like I've known you since you were 15. Nobody gives a shit.
Like I was, again, whenever I headline, I don't care how the other people do. I hope the other people do well. I want them to do well.
Right.
But I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care what they do.
Yeah.
As a headliner, you shouldn't care.
Right.
You should be good enough as a headliner where it doesn't matter
whether it bombs or not before.
Yeah. You just don't want them to walk the audience. That's the only thing.
Yeah. Let's not do that.
Let's not walk the people. But if you bomb, you bomb. Just do it again.
Right. Yeah.
It's weird. Comedy's a weird thing. You have to get back up.
What has becoming a parent done to your life?
Showed me that nothing else really matters.
Yeah.
There's only one thing that matters.
Right.
I mean, as much as I love my wife and helping her out, and she helps me out and stuff, it's like I saw this quote or as a meme on Instagram. It's like when I met my wife or I married my wife, I was like I thought I would never love anyone as much as I love this person, and then I had my kid, and I realized how wrong I was.
Yeah.
And it has nothing to do with your wife or your spouse or your husband.
Not. Yeah.
You still love them to death, and you would do anything for them. But it's like once you have a kid, you're like, oh, there's nothing.
Yeah.
I would kill my wife to protect
you. Yeah.
Right? Like, it's not like not that I hate, it's a weird thing to say, but it's like I would kill myself to protect you. Like whatever it takes to protect you is what I would do.
Right.
And that's what having a kid does. And I never wanted children. I grew up, I just wanted to come to LA and be a comedian and just have money and be on TV and movies and stuff like that. And, Tracy and I got together and we got married and still wasn't thinking about kids. So I was like, okay, I'll be married. That's fine. I like being married. I love you. We'll be married. It's fine. Whatever. And then like a few years in, she's like, I want to have kids. I'm like, okay. Wish we'd talked about this before. But you should discuss that before you get married. You should have that
conversation.
But I think she just automatically assumed I always wanted kids. Right. She just assumed that. It was most people. When you get married, you're just like, oh yeah, we'll have kids one day.
Right.
So we never had the talk. And I was like, okay, I mean, I don't really want to, but I love you. And if you want to, we can do this together. And you know what? Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. See what happens, which is the terrible way to go into pregnant.
Not recommended. But I will also say sometimes it works out.
Sometimes it does work out
in the best
way.
Right.
In the best possible way. Mm-hmm. And so she was on birth control since she was 15. Right. Mm-hmm. And she's now 34 because we waited a long time to have kids. And we'd been together we've been married 5-6 years. So we were like in our mid 30s. And we tried and they're like, it could take a while. So just know she's been on birth control for a long time. And you guys are both, in your mid 30s. Yeah. 1 month. And I was prepping myself in my head going, oh yeah, this is going to take a while. This might not even happen.
Right.
I just get to have a bunch of sex.
Yeah.
This is great. And
1 month.
She had her little calendar that gave you the fertility times. Like, okay, I'm ovulating and this is my window. These days are my window. Right. I'm like, okay, whatever. Yeah. It's whatever. And literally by the time she was supposed to get her next period, she was pregnant. And I'm like, my God, dude. Fucking insane. And so I'm like, okay. And then like I guess I was in denial because it's like we were in Seattle because we'd taken a trip to Seattle because I won tickets at a comedy competition, free airline tickets. Okay. In lieu of getting payment, you win things when you're a comedian. Right. So let's take a trip to Seattle for the weekend. So we go up to Seattle. This was like I guess September of 2008. And we're up in Seattle and we're going to go to a minor league baseball game. And she's like, I want to have a beer. Let me just take a test to see before I start drinking. I'm like, okay. And I'm like, whatever. Let's just keep going. Let's get to the game. There's no way. We had sex like twice since you've had this ovulation window. Yeah. Let's go. Yeah. And so she pees on the stick and I just hear in the bathroom like, oh my God. I'm like, what? And then she comes out, she shows me. And my first reaction is like, oh shit. Like that, oh shit. Right? Like it just, again, it's almost like I'm bombing in the belly room. Like it was just reactive. There was no thought until I was like, oh shit. It was just like almost like vomit, right? You couldn't hold it in. I was like, oh shit. And
that's so good.
And then I was just thinking, and like that whole, we went to the game. I was just in a daze going like, what am I doing? I barely survive as it is as a comic. Mm-hmm. She's a real estate agent. It's so up and down. What are we doing? And I start having like the panic attacks, like, oh my God. Right. And then, so when we finally get back to LA, I start looking into all the, like, okay, what kind of assistance can we get? Like the WIC program and all this other stuff. And we get free diapers, we get free formula, all this stuff. And I'm like, okay. And then we start brainstorming, okay, if we have a baby shower, we can get they'll give us a crib. Somebody will give us a crib. Somebody will give us a stroller. So we're like, okay, we can get all this shit for free. Right. So, okay, you start feeling a little better. Like I don't have to drop all this money right away to have a kid. Right. And so pregnancy goes along and I'm trying to be there for her and she's getting excited. And it was weird. You go in, you get the sonogram, the first sonogram when you hear the heartbeat, right? And it's still not real to you, right? Until they put that thing on and you start hearing boom, 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 boom. And you're like, then it like, there's something that just inside you just flips and you're like, oh.
It's nuts.
I helped create a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Right. And so we're like, oh my God. And then we go to Bob's Big Boy after.
Hell yeah.
Because we're waiting to tell us what the sex is, right? Because they did the they put the needle in, get the, like, however they test to see what the sex is early. And we're like, okay. And then, because I hadn't even thought at this point what the sex should be. I didn't care if it was a boy or girl. I didn't even, it wasn't real.
Right.
So I didn't even picture a little boy or a little girl. I didn't picture it. I just pictured baby.
Right.
Right. And so we're at Bob's Big Boy and we're sitting there eating and her phone rings and it's her OBGYN and she picks up the phone. She's like, oh really? Okay. And she hangs up the phone and she's like, it's a boy. And I'm like, at that moment, I just like, that's when I got the, like, that's the first time. That was the first time I got the lump. I'm like, I'm going to have a boy. I'm going to have a son.
Yeah.
I'm going to make him a nerd. I'm going to give him, show him Star Wars. He's going to play football. Like, it's just like, he's going to be me. What men do. He's going to be a carbon copy of me.
Yeah.
And so that was when it was real. And then after that, I got excited and I was like, I'm in. And not just because it was a boy. It was because of the heartbeat. And I was like, that feels like I've created something. I have a higher purpose. I have a bigger purpose in life than myself now. Right. I'm responsible for this. And so he was born and I just like the first time I hauled him, I'm like, this is the greatest.
Whatever you need. Yeah.
Whatever you want me to do, I will do.
Yeah.
You tell me to kill that doctor right now, I will kill that doctor.
Fucking murder him right now.
I will strangle him with your umbilical cord right now if you give me the word. Like, it's just like you become a psycho. Yeah. Parents are psycho. Yeah. You will do anything for your kid. And he grew up and he got older and like the first few years are a nightmare. They suck. And anyone says they don't, they're lying. Yeah. But when they turn like 3.5, 4 years old and they start getting a personality and they look at you and they're calling you daddy or mommy and
2.5 to 3.5.
Oh, nightmare.
Awful.
Nightmare.
3.5.
3.5 and on. It's the fucking greatest thing in the world.
Yeah.
And I don't say everyone should go through it. They shouldn't, but like the people that have it, they know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It's the greatest thing in the world.
I'll share how we found out the sex of the baby.
Did you want to know or did you care?
I wanted to know. I was convinced it was a boy. I'd had dreams about boys.
Oh, really?
I wanted finally to create a man that would love me unconditionally. So wanted a boy. Because I was 36, so they.
So you had a geriatric pregnancy too. So was Tracy. Geriatric pregnancy.
So with that, they did all the blood work and we'd had the regular doctor's appointment and then we went to go have breakfast.
Right.
But then the genealogy place or genetics testing place called and I'm on the phone and Craig wanted a girl. And I go, hello? And they go, so there's a problem. We need you to come back in because there's a 50-50 chance that she has something called, oh my God, why am I blank? Turner syndrome.
Oh God.
And I'm like, Turner syndrome. And Craig's like just eating. He's not really paying attention. And I go, what's that? And they're like, well, if she's born, blah, 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 blah. And I go, she? And they go, well, it's only in females. And I go, oh, and then she goes, did you not know the sex of the baby? And I go, no. And I go, Craig, it's a girl. And Craig goes, yes. And I go, hold on, look up Turner syndrome. And he gets on his phone. He goes, no. And it's usually, and they say this, like 90% of miscarriages are probably Turner syndrome. Yeah. It's a mischromosome kind of thing. Right. But if they do survive, it's like a webbed neck, no uterus, complications. And I was like, yo. So I had to go in and have a very invasive procedure, but turned out she didn't have that, and which thank God. And but that's how we found out was
that's crazy.
There might be something really wrong with her.
Like,
her? Oh. Didn't know she was going to be
Good thing I didn't want to have a party.
Yeah. Didn't want to plan that too fast. But he was so happy. But I was like, what are all these dreams about baby boys then? What the fuck?
Well, Tracy thought she was going to have a girl.
Yeah. Not funny.
It's weird. I think the thing you want is the thing you don't get.
Yeah.
Which is life.
Yeah, which is life, just in general.
In general.
I will say we have we share custody, and like Everly's been spending more time because she's older now. So she's been spending more time with Craig. And there is this feeling, I'd be curious to ask single dads this, because your experience described very similar my experience. And I feel like I have to prepare myself to take a hit right before I send her off.
Right.
Because I feel like my chest has been ripped out, and like I am so like all my skin has been peeled off, and I'm just like waiting for her to come back.
Right.
And Craig's so great with it because he's like, we need extra pictures this week. We need some extra FaceTimes, whatever you need. He's great. But I'm like, but that is my baby. It's I made her. And I wonder if single dads feel the same way about that.
I don't have that perspective. Single dad. I was a stay-at-home dad for the first few years because Tracy she was working pretty regularly after the pregnancy. So from 1.5 or 2 to like almost 4, I was a stay-at-home dad. Like she would leave like 8 a.m. to like 5 p.m. I was there. I was taking him to Travel Town and Griffith Park.
Yeah.
I was taking him to the mall. Like we had this routine. We'd do all these different, I'd ride horses over in Griffith Park. We did all these different things because I didn't know what to do.
Right.
I just know I had to
you did the right thing. That's pretty good.
I had no idea I just knew I had to get him out of the house.
Right.
Because once they could start running, like.
Just let them keep running, especially boys.
Oh right. And you have to get him outside.
Yeah.
Because inside he's just going to destroy everything.
Best thing like about my husband, like if I'm like, hey, we've been going. She's got dance. She's got music. She's got da-da. I go, let's just have a quiet Sunday at the house. He cannot. There's something about men that are like, we have to go outside and build a fire.
Get out of the house.
And I'm like, okay, you guys go and I'll clean the whole house. And suddenly I'm like, when did my life become so domestic where he's like, we got to get the kid outside running, playing t-ball. You clean and cook, okay? And I'm like, what happened to my life? I'll be back later. It's just so funny. But that's good that you're just so active.
But I guess because I'd spent so much time with him in those couple of years.
Yeah.
An inordinate amount of time with him that I wasn't expecting to spend.
Right.
And I grew so close with him that the first day I took him to pre-K, and like you walk him up to the gate and all that stuff, and they open up the gate, and he's always been a social kid. Like he's never been like clingy, like I don't want to go. He's always like, let's go. Right.
That's everything.
And so I took him up to the gate and opened up the gate, and all the kids are playing at the playground, and he just like look at it and he just takes off. Doesn't even look back. Yeah. And I'm just like, that hurt. That hurt so much.
Yeah.
And but that's what you want. You want him to go.
Right. Absolutely.
You don't want them to turn around.
Yeah. I had some gig that was like, it was a 3-week thing on some show, and we weren't making any money, and the pandemic ruined a tour. So like, I was like, I knew how I was going to provide for her until the pandemic hit. Yeah. And then I was like, fuck.
Yeah.
And, I remember getting a daycare and being like, it's just going to be for 3 weeks. And I remember dropping her off. And again, like yours, no problem saying goodbye. I burst into tears in the car, of course. And then when I came to pick her up, she was so happy.
Yeah.
And then when I dropped her off the next day, she like lit up something like, and as parents, you have to acknowledge like, I would keep her with me forever every day if I could. Yeah. But you realize, this is what she needs. Yeah. And there's people, that are like, they don't know how to socialize at that age. They need to be with their parents 24/7 and stuff. And I understand that. But if you could have seen my child, like there's something about her. She's an extrovert. She loves socialization. I don't. So I'm like, what is happening?
Go away, everybody.
Like, what is happening? And she started thriving. And so then immediately my mom brain went to, now I have to find an extra job just so I can send her here for the short hours, not the full days, but like.
Yeah, we did that too.
The short hours just to like, because she loves it, and she loves the people, and she loves the caretakers are like obsessed
and trust me,
with her.
That's the best thing you can do is get them social. I mean, I know places you stay with, but no, get them socialized, get them out in the world, get them talking to adults.
Yeah,
we have an only kid, right? And
same.
I assume you have an only kid. Yeah. And he is so he's so mature for his age, and and every time he talks with people, he comes out of conversation. He can hold a conversation with an adult, and they come like, "My God, he's so intelligent. He's so well spoken." And it's like because he grew up around adults.
Yeah,
he didn't have a sibling, so like get them out there and socialize them with kids, socialize them with adults.
Yeah,
because it makes them less intimidated by adults.
Right,
like he'll walk into a room full of adults, and most kids his age would just get down on their phone and just like, I don't want to talk to any adults.
Yeah,
he'll start talking.
Oh, that makes me feel good because I think she'd be like that if I nurture that.
But keep her socializing her, keep her out, put her in situations where it's just you, her, and like 3 other adults.
Yeah.
Where you're and let her blend in with the adults.
Right.
Because it builds their confidence in social situations.
Yeah.
Right. Because like, I can talk with adults aren't intimidating. I can talk to anybody.
Yeah.
So it's like, we learned that lesson early on. Like, no, let's just get him out there as much as we can and don't shelter him as much as we want to shelter him and keep him inside. Let him go because he's thriving now. He's popular in school. He plays football. He's got straight A's. He's in AP class. Like he's thriving.
Oh, I love
And I think it's because we made that decision early on. Like, let's not don't treat like he can be a kid and you can do kid things, but don't look down on him. Because like a lot of adults look at children as like they look down on them. They don't respect them as other human beings.
Right.
If you respect them as a human being or your child as a human being, they grow up feeling different about themselves than just going, you're a kid, you don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having
sharing
me.
all that. Those are some great stories.
I don't know if they were life changing, but
they're pretty up there.
They were my life.
Yeah, that's good. Where can people follow you?
You can follow me at Eddie Pence on all the socials, or you can go to eddiepence.com, or check out any of my 5,000 podcasts that I do.
That are all great.
Yes. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you for coming on.
Thanks, Nicole.
Great. As always, guys, remember to follow at The Funny Thing Is Podcast or at Nicole Birch Comedy on all socials, and we'll see you next week.